Lero taberaso ndi breaking news imenetu bungwe lija lapaki likuphaphalitsa mafunso akuluakulu a National Bank komatu kumeneku kwavuta akutitu pali zinthu zina zimene wakubisa kuzifotokoza mu nyumbayi. Kodi zimenezo mukuzidziwa nanga ndi chani? Nanga chifukwa chani bungwe lapaki likukakamira kuti kapena likukakamiza iwowa kuti aulule? Kodi pali za nyengo zilizonse? Takhani pomwepo mumve mayankho a challenge amene banki yayankha. Kodi zimenezi banki imanena kuyankha chonchi? Tatentonele video imene ya Malawi.
Among other things, all this we do whilst ensuring security and compliance. The relationship is therefore built on trust. The law does recognize the existence of this trust and provides limitations on what the bank can and cannot do, what the bank can and cannot disclose, to ensure this trust is maintained. So, going to the first part of the presentation, I'll call upon my colleague, our legal counsel, Ms. Zuzo Mitole, to present the legal relationship between the bank and its customers. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Chair and members. Good morning again. As the CEO has indicated, I'm going to cover the legal relationship between banks and their customers as a preamble or a foundation to the responses we shall give. And we need to do this so that as we respond to the questions that we were given, there is a basis or an understanding as to the extent to which we can respond. So the issues that exercised our minds when responding were as follows. 1, potential litigation. When a customer opens an account, he enters into a contractual relationship with the bank. And one of the conditions of this relationship is that the bank cannot disclose information or transactions whatsoever without the customer's consent. Disclosure without the customer's consent could therefore lead to breach of contract and legal action on the bank for damages for that breach. The second issue that exercised our minds was the implication of the common law duty of confidentiality. Under common law, there's a case of Tunier versus National Provincial and Union Bank, in which the court ruled that banks have a duty of confidentiality to their customers, thus creating a common law duty not to disclose customer information. However, that case gave exceptions to this duty. And these are that 1, where there is a law that compels disclosure, the bank can disclose. Where there's serious danger to the state, the bank can disclose. Where the bank has an interest, as in, for example, if there's a recovery action and the bank goes to court, it would have to disclose customer transactions to the court. And finally, where the customer has provided the bank with consent to disclose, the bank would be able to disclose. But coming closer to home, we have the Data Protection Act, which under Section 8 prohibits disclosure of customer data or information without the explicit consent of the customer. The Financial Crimes Act also, under Section 24, prohibits the disclosure of the fact that a suspicious transaction has been made, or even that a suspicion was formed with respect to any transaction. Further, Section 25 prohibits anyone from disclosing any information that will identify or is likely to identify any person who would have handled the submission of a suspicious transaction. There's an exception, and that exception is that the disclosure can be made only to the FIA. So the Act prohibits banks from talking about suspicious transactions. We also are subject to the Reserve Bank directives. In this case, the applicable directive is the one on financial services fair treatment of consumers, which under Section 9 requires financial institutions to put in place measures to protect the confidentiality of customer information and personal data. So in compliance with this, banks do not disclose customer information. However, the section goes on to provide exceptions, and these are that if the disclosure is in accordance with the original purpose for which the information was provided, the bank can disclose. The bank can also disclose if the customer has given the bank consent to disclose. The bank can also disclose if such disclosure is required by law, or the bank can disclose if disclosure is being given in line with a court order. When we were coming here, we considered these legal provisions, but we also considered the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, which provides that any witness appearing before Parliament or a committee of Parliament is immune from being sued for any statements made to Parliament or to a committee of Parliament, meaning that any witness here, as we sit, can disclose anything without fear of repercussions. However, we noted that there is a conflict between what this act says and what the Financial Crimes Act, the Data Protection Act, and the RBM Directive say. In legal practice, when two laws are in conflict with each other, the one that takes precedence is the one that addresses the issue at hand or is in dispute. In this case, the concern is on disclosure of customer information and transactions. The Financial Crimes Act and the Data Protection Act provide that banks should not and cannot disclose information. These two acts, including the RBM Directive, are the guidance on the issue of disclosure. And so, because these two laws and the RBM Directive are on point with respect to the issue of disclosure, when we relate it to the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, it means that the two acts and the RBM Directive reign supreme. For this reason, our submission will be limited to customer confidentiality. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I will now call upon the Chief Risk Officer to cover another concern that we had as a bank before specifically responding to the three questions that you specifically asked us. Over to you, Mr. Ulaya.
Thanks, Chair and committee members. I also want to re-emphasize that in terms of our role as an intermediary, we also need to safeguard ourselves from systemic risk, basically because the bank manages deposits, manages the institution, and therefore our discussion should be safeguarded to protect creating a situation where there could be a bank run, and also on questions on how stable is it in the financial industry that we're in. There is therefore a need to balance the systemic risk with disclosure requirements so as not to create a distrust in the financial services industry through excessive or unwarranted disclosures. So our responses this morning, Chair and committee, are going to be guarded in order for the bank to be seen to comply with the law and also not to create mistrust in the financial services industry as has been outlined.
Mulanje Southeast, what has gone out of order?
Honorable Chairperson, I was expecting a presentation from the National Bank, but what we are getting from the National Bank is not a presentation. What we're getting from the National Bank are basically excuses. And I'm not sure whether National Bank is aware of what the Constitution provides and the mandate that this committee has got in terms of getting information from private entities and public entities. Honorable Chairperson, I'm not very certain whether we can proceed in this particular manner and be productive. I submit, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Mulanje Southeast. I'm looking at it that they are giving us a synopsis because as Parliament, as Public Accounts Committee, we wrote to them, raise inquiries, and I believe, I just have deep felt belief that as soon as they do what they are doing, they will proceed to address the substantive questions which Public Accounts Committee raised. So, Mulanje Southeast, you are indeed right, but I'm riding on the fact that I'm operating on trust that they will proceed to address such. In the event that they don't do that, then we'll compel them to stick to what they submitted. National Bank, you may proceed as soon after providing your synopsis. Kindly proceed to address the issues which were contained in the letter that Public Accounts Committee or Parliament wrote to the bank. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I now proceed to respond to the letter that was written to National Bank on the 9th of April 2026 as regards, firstly, on our collaboration with the law enforcement agencies. I wish to confirm, as the money laundering officer for National Bank of Malawi, that we maintained.
There's a point of order. Blantyre Misesa, what is out of order?
Chair, through you, I just wanted to make it known to the stakeholder and the controlling officer that this committee is a constitutional committee. The Constitution is the supreme law of this land, and this inquiry has been given to the Constitutional Committee to inquire. Therefore, whenever they are having their explanations in the matter, they should have that in mind, that we are mandated to inquire and get any nitty-gritty that we are supposed to get from them. Thank you, Chair.
Palombe Machemba, what has gone out of order? Controlling officer, can you switch off your mic?
Chair, is it in order for the National Bank to keep withholding very pertinent information for this inquiry? We have called them for the same purpose that they provide very critical information to this inquiry. And by the way, they are saying they cannot give us information on the status of the accounts, whilst in their previous note to this committee, they indicated that the accounts were first frozen and then they were unfrozen. Now they are saying they cannot give us such details. Is that in order, Chair?
Your point of order is sustained. It's extremely out of order for the bank to behave in that way, because when you look at the submission which the bank made last week, they gave details, including the status of the account, that it was frozen, and the bank went on to indicate that at a later stage they got clearance and the accounts were unfrozen, making the available funds to be accessed. This is the information that the bank provided this committee last week. Today, it appears they are changing the goalpost. Controlling officer, can you come out very clear on these things, as indicated by Palombe Machemba?
Thank you very much, Chair and Palombe Machemba. Maybe it's the way the wording is stated in this particular submission, but we can admit in terms of if we are talking about frozen and unfrozen. Okay. We did get an order from FIA to freeze the accounts, and all accounts were frozen on the 13th of March. All accounts were frozen. We did thereafter get an order towards 26 or thereabouts of March to unfreeze 2 operating accounts. You have to remember that the customer has several accounts. They have accounts that received the proceeds. They have accounts that they conduct business. So if you freeze everything, they were not able to conduct business. So it's only the accounts that conduct hotel business that were unfrozen. That's what we can provide, the general position. Thank you very much, Controlling Officer.
Maybe Honorable, I see Mulanje Southeast and I see Blantyre Chilomoni. You're saying the account which was frozen is the account which received the payment from pension fund, but the other accounts were operating accounts. Does it mean that there were no amounts which moved from the account which received the money from the pension fund into that operating account? Because so many transactions happened. So where are we at this stage in terms of the operating account? Do we have money which moved from the account that received the payment from pension fund into the operating account? Over to you, Controlling Officer.
The amounts that were frozen when we got the order from FIA remains frozen. What we did was, if everything was frozen, we would have had to bring to lock the hotel, because they need to operate, they need to buy cabbage, they need to pay wages. So that those accounts were open to facilitate trading. These were operating accounts. They are not associated with the sale and purchase of the hotel.
I see Mulanje Southeast. Then, yeah, I've seen you. Don't worry, Blantyre Mrs. Before we go to Mulanje Southeast, can we hear supplementary from Blantyre Mrs. Blantyre Mrs.
Thank you very much, Chair. You have asked the Controlling Officer, indeed, that if the monies that are deemed to be proceeds of the Amaris Hotel moved from their account to the operation account. That one, the Controlling Officer has not answered. Is it yes or no? Through you, I want the Controlling Officer to tell the committee, did the money move from the other account, the one that received the proceeds, to the operation account? Yes or no? Did the money move? Thank you. Just wanted to know that through you, Chair.
Controlling Officer.
Significant issue here of timing. When did we get the freezing order? From the time that we got the freezing order, the balance is the same in the account that received the sale proceeds. Thank you very much. And this was provided to FIA, ACB, and they're monitoring that. And when they were coming to us to say, we need hotel to operate, you can unfreeze these 2 accounts, they satisfied themselves that these 2 accounts only get proceeds from selling of hotel rooms and catering services. And therefore, they need to have these accounts opened for them to trade. Thank you.
Yes, sir. What this committee wants is you to come out very clear. If you have an operating account, you can't just keep the money in that operating account. If the money has, reached a certain threshold, I believe you can move that into the other account because it belongs to one institution. That's just a belief. So what we're saying is, in the event that these were operating under, now there's this account which has received a substantial amount, about 90 billion. Was there a point when that account which had received a substantial amount in January, where a certain amount of money moved into the operating account. That's a question. Whether at that stage, when you received an order to freeze the account, before you received that communication or the order to freeze the account, was there any amount which had moved from the account that received the money into the operating account?
The operating accounts receive sales proceeds from sale of activities of the hotel and make payments regarding the hotel. They have other accounts for this other business, the sale and purchase of the hotel. So these two accounts were specific for the for operations of the hotel, and the authorities in this particular case, FIA and ACB, verified that. Thank you very much.
Members, maybe we give them space to finish their submission, then we open for plenary. For the sake of progress, I would like to ask honourable members that maybe we take note, then we give them space to finalize, then we take to the floor. I see a hand from Mulanje Southeast.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I think two pertinent issues. The first one, I would like National Bank to withdraw their submission that they have consistently made in their last presentation, which is to say that they are unable to respond. And we have already started getting responses from them. I would want them to withdraw that for the sake of this committee, they are compelled to respond. Secondly, Honourable Chairperson, I think National Bank is aware of the type of information that this Honourable Committee is looking for. And for some reason, they don't want to provide that information. I would expect to get a historical presentation of information related to this particular transaction. We are not interested in selling rooms. We are interested in the sale of Amaryllis. And National Bank is aware of our interest. I would want them to categorically present the dates when either Reserve Bank of Malawi communicated to them that they had suspected that this particular account, there was something fishy going around in that particular account. What type of communication did they make to FIA? At what particular point? These dates are very important to this committee. And the National Bank is aware of the dates that we're interested in. That's why the Chief Executive Officer is mentioning that dates are particularly important in this particular presentation. They are aware that there are transactions that took place before the account was frozen. And that is where we are interested in, before they proceed. Honourable Chairperson, thank you.
Controlling Officer, can you weigh in on what Mulanje Southeast has indicated before you proceed to make your substantive submission? Can you attend to Mulanje Southeast query?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair and Mulanje Southeast. As you are aware, and as you have heard from previous presentations, the funds came in mid-January. The transactions that you have seen or have been referred to happened from mid-January to early March. Your inquiry started in March. When your inquiry started, that's when we got communication from FIA and from the regulators to say, National Bank, can you take action? And we took action that time. The balances that were there, that time that FIA and RBM and everybody came to us, remain the same. Thank you very much.
The CEO, you're deliberately avoiding responding on the transaction. Because our interest as Public Accounts Committee, like it has been indicated by Mulanje Southeast, is not what happens in the operating account. No. Because even the transactions from that account which received the money, it was not only to that operating account. it was to several accounts. Our interest is to trace the money. Where did the money go when you received it on behalf of, the customer? Because having received it, the customer actually gave you instructions, transfer this amount to this account, transfer this amount to this account. From January to when we started this interaction, at what point did the operating account benefit from the account that received the substantial amount of 90 billion? From that day, is there any day when even 1,000 was transferred from that account to operating account? This is where you are playing games. Can you come out clear, controlling officer?
Chair, it's not that we are trying to play any games. I think you and me have seen all the details of all the transactions from mid-January to March. All the transactions went to different payments of checks and transfers, not to the operating account. But let me finish that. As my company secretary indicated, we cannot talk about a specific amount of money going to a specific account, because then we are breaching. And unless we can be provided an appropriate indemnity, then we can have that kind of discussion. We are aware that FIA came here, they came in Kamela, you did provide them a space in Kamela to provide that. That's a different kind of conversation. But for us, for the integrity of the financial system and the whole financial industry, for us to be saying this amount of money, it's like we should be talking about how you spend your allowance, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much.
In fact, how I can spend my allowance is something that I can disclose to the public, because this is the money that I've earned, haven't received. Earning something and receiving something is completely different. So in this case, the operating account received without necessarily, doing something. So all we need is to know which account, if at any point that operating account benefited from the 90 billion, because that's where we are having issues. If you feel that it never got anything, you're free to say from the day that amount was received, 90 billion, this operating account never had an interface or any transfer from this, or any amount transferred from this main account to that operating account. You must take note that it is alleged that the bank was operating on losses, and National Bank was also giving them pressure in terms of repaying their loan. So at that stage, I am thinking that this account had the issues, or it was bleeding. To that effect, upon receiving that amount, 90 billion, for any business person who wants the business to keep on operating, definitely a transaction was facilitated. And the committee wants to understand how much was transferred from the account that received to that operating account. Because other accounts were frozen, but the operating account was never frozen.
Provide a background. So it's not true that other accounts were frozen, others were not. When we got the order, all accounts were frozen. Let me also just provide a background. When we deal with a customer, and the customer has got an overdraft or a loan, those are opened as separate accounts. And when monies come in, the customer makes a decision where to transfer them. In this particular case, to the best of our knowledge, from all the information that you have seen from the previous presentation, we do not remember a transfer from these proceeds to the operating account. The operating account receives proceeds from sale of rooms and makes payment for operating expenditure. They had a specific account that was stated in the sale and purchase agreement that received funds. And from there, that's where they would make payments to other accounts. That's what we can say.
Supplementary, Chair.
Maybe before we get to Mulanje Southeast for supplementary, but I want to put it on record that this far, Public Accounts Committee has not received detailed transactions for this sale. The bank, like you're putting it, is failing to give us the details. Financial Intelligence Authority failed to give us the details, even in camera. Reserve Bank as financial regulator did not give us the details. So it's just speculation that you're giving to this committee, that as you have as a committee, as Public Accounts Committee, we don't have those details. The more reason we summoned you to actually give us the details so that we pick it from there. But we'll proceed. Mulanje Southeast?
Honorable Chairperson, I sincerely believe that National Bank is aware of our interests. And we should not be catching each other on semantics here. All our time is quite precious. The interest that this Honorable Committee has is from the date that the said account received the sums from Public Pensions Trust Fund and the outflows from that account. Whether that account is called a loan account, it's called an operational account, it's called book and company, we are not interested in that. But the National Bank is aware into the account, in which account these sums went into. And this this Honorable Committee is interested in the outflows because this Honorable Committee was instituted to protect public funds, and it intends to do exactly that. So we are interested to know the outflows from this account up until the time that it was frozen. And to rephrase what the Honorable Chairperson had asked is, should we assume that the sums that were transacted at that particular point, which this Honorable Committee is aware was 90 billion, is that 90 billion still available in this particular account? If not, where did the monies go? Whether they went out by check, whether they went out through payments to suppliers, that's what this committee is interested in. And that's why the National Bank was brought before this committee to respond and provide this committee with that information. So what we should be asking is National Bank going to give us that information, or it's not going to give us that information? Honorable Chairperson, thank you.
Go to Chitipa Central. Allow me, Chitipa Central, to give a chance to the bank to respond to Mulanje Southeast. Mulanje Southeast has raised pertinent issues. Over to you, Controlling Officer.
I'll ask my company secretary to cover that.
Thank you, Chair and members. In the preamble that was given at the beginning of this appearance, it was indicated the legal limitations that we have. The FIA, the data protection, all of them provide limitations as to how much customer transactions and information can be given out. As a subject of those regulators, including the Reserve Bank, we feel we must comply with the laws that were enacted by this Parliament in terms of how much information can be given. However, if we are provided with assurance and protection as to repercussions of disclosures, then perhaps we could consider, but our hands are tied, our regulators do not allow us, and our customers do not allow us to disclose. Unless there is specific consent from the customer, we can disclose. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think Council has, in a way, answered to what would have been my question, but still I need to bring this to your attention. First, you provided the guidance that you want the National Bank to finish, then you open a plenary. And again, Mulanje Southeast had a question, a request, which was for the National Bank to withdraw, that they can't disclose because they are compelled. And I wanted to say that as long as they have not withdrawn, the answers will be what they are answering, because they are polite answers of saying, no, we can't disclose because our hands are tied. So I would want to say, either we proceed as you guided, that we finish because they are insisting that their hands are tied, or they should be compelled to withdraw what, the question of Mulanje Southeast. So I wanted to bring to your attention that you have provided guidance and you have not allowed them to answer the request of Mulanje Southeast. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Controlling Officer, you can take that one.
Chair, with your permission, maybe we can finish our presentation and we can go to the plenary.
That's in order. Mulanje Southeast as well as Chitipa Central, let us give them space to make their presentation. When we come to that plenary, then kindly refresh them on that one. What is out of order, Palombe Machemba?
Chair, in the prevailing circumstances, with what you are getting from National Bank, is it worth proceeding? Is it worth allowing National Bank to continue presenting what they are presenting? Because it is devoid of what we want from them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Palombe Machemba, because what you're raising is very, very important. Because the reason Public Accounts Committee, on behalf of Parliament, on behalf of the Speaker, requested the bank to appear was to give information, details. Because even if you check the submissions they made, the earlier one, detailed report to Public Accounts Committee, PAC queries. When you check on this, you find that their submission indicating that FIA requested for check images related to this transaction, and they provided the said images, right? Now, when you look at this document, which has been submitted today, that is not available. Even when you go on the area submission, you will be told that the provision of CCTV footage relating to the check encashments were made. But when you look at this, you find that such information has been withheld. Unless, if we were to go by what the controlling officer indicated earlier on, that this is a supplementary to this. So we still move with a belief that the images were sent to FIA, and at the same time, we go with the belief that the CCTV footage and those who encashed still stands. Controlling officer.
Thank you, Chair. So we do comply with the regulators and using the specific acts. And that's why we fully complied with FIA. We gave them everything that they wanted. We gave ACB what they specifically wanted. When we reviewed what Parliament, the acts, as she has indicated, we noted that it was not specific. Now, this is the first time for us to interact with you. We have presented in our preamble what is our legal position. Should Parliament have a position to come back to us to say that we believe we are also entitled to the following information because of the following, we can get that submission and have another date to appear before you with all that you need. That this is in line with the following regulations.
said that, controlling officer,
With due respect, Chair.
having responded in that manner, allow me to suspend the proceedings for 5 minutes. I'd like to ask you to temporarily go out so that the committee can deliberate basing on what you've just indicated.